Hi guys, my name is Jake, and this is episode 5 of the Poker Vlog. In this episode of the vlog, we're going to do a recap on the WSOP and how the tournaments and the cash games went. But first off, I would like to thank you guys for all the support that you guys are leaving in the comment section below, and I would like to read off some of the great comments I am getting. Are you a girl with a beard? You should get in a circus as a bearded lady. I can't juggle, so bearded lady it is. Are you serious, Doofy? So now any bird with a camera can be a poker blogger? LOL. Wow. Tweet. Tweet. Who cares? Go away. All jokes aside, thank you guys for all the love in the comment section below. And make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel because 80% of my viewers still aren't subscribed. So make sure you subscribe. Now let's talk about the WSOP. I played the 2 tournaments I wanted to play. I played the $400 200K guaranteed. And of course, I played the 1.7K, 750K. Main event. During the tournaments, I didn't take very many notes because I was just trying to be there in the moment, study the players, because I really don't have the opportunity to play these tournaments here in Wisconsin, so I just wanted to be present at the table. When we talk about the hands in the tournament, some of the bet sizing may be off, or some of the cards on the turn and river may be different, but you'll still get the same picture on how it went. Before the tournament even started, I did an interview for the local news, not really thinking about it, and they actually used some of my clips for the news. So I thought that was a pretty cool start of the tournament. If you followed my Instagram, you would already know about this, so make sure you follow my Instagram down below to check out all my poker endeavors. So starting off on Friday, we play the $400 200K guarantee tournament. We get there at level 1. Blinds start at $25.50, and you start with $15K in chips. The blinds go up every 30 minutes. Let's get this tournament started. The tournament didn't go my way for the first 2.5 hours. I think I played a total of 5 hands total. 3 of the hands were just pocket pairs that I just didn't hit my set, so I folded. There's one hand where I had ace jack. I opened it up in middle position. There's one caller. The flop was 8-7-6. I check, he bets. I just fold. I won only 1 hand out of the 5. I was slowly chipping away and I only had about 9K in my stack. Blinds were 75-150 with a 25 ante. The middle position opened up to 400 and I call with queen 10 suited. We go heads up to a flop of jack 9-4 rainbow. Middle position bets 500 and of course I just make the call. Turn is a 7 and he checks it to me. So I decided to make a bet of 1,000. He should be c-betting a lot of his hands on the flop and also should be betting a lot of jacks on the turn. So I think he just has some kind of ace high or maybe some king queen types of hands. He does make the call and the river is a jack. He checks it to me again and I decided to put in a pretty polarized bet here and I bet 3,500. I can have all the jacks here and my image at the table seems like I'm the tightest knit you have ever met. He didn't think about it for that long and he puts in the fold. Later I looked down at pocket jacks on the button. The blinds are now 100, 200 with a 50 ante. I have about 12K in front of me. I open it up to 500 and the small blind puts in a raise of 1.5K. I make the call and we go heads up to a flop of king 3-3 rainbow. He checks it to me and I think he should be c-betting this board a lot, because I could be just trying to steal the blinds on the button and he should have a lot of the king X in his range. I also think this player might be a little bit of a weaker player by only 3xing the small blind. He should be 4xing a lot. So I decided to put in a bet of 1.2K. I think he could have a lot of 10s through queens here that check. He can also have a lot of ace queen or ace jack I think ace king and king queen should be betting this flop 100% of the time. If he does call this bet, he probably has like tens through queens, and if I put in a bet on a turn, I could probably get a lot of those hands to fold for being how tight I was. He does decide on a call. The turn is another 3. He checks it to me again, and as planned, I bet 2,000. With my surprise, he makes the call, so this sets off alarm bells right away. Now that he calls 2 streets, I put him on either aces or kings. The river is a blank. He checks it to me, and I decide to give up and check it back. And he shows us the unfortunate news of pocket aces. Blinds are now 150, 300 with a 50 ante. I have about 6K in front of me, and we look down at pocket aces. I open up to 750 in under the gun. The big blind makes a call, and he only has around 4K behind. The flop is 10-9-4, and I decide to put in a c-bet of 600. If he calls here, I can get it in about any turn. It'll be around a pot-sized bet. This small bet could also induce some raises as well from a lot of pair-type hands, and that's exactly what it did. He shoves for 2.7K, and of course, I call. He flips over 10-jack, the turn is a brick, and the river is a brick. So we hold, and we get our first double up of the tournament. Exactly 1 full orbit later, we look down at pocket aces again. We have about 11K in front of us now. The under the gun limps, and I decide to limp behind. There are 2 short stacks in late position that are both regs, so I think they should be shoving pretty wide a lot of the time. One of them does end up shoving for 6K, and of course we call. He shows ace queen suited, and we hold. So we are now up to 18K, and the first time over starting stack in the tournament. We are 5 hours into the tournament, and the blinds are now 200, 400 with a 50 ante. Middle position opens up to 800. The next player to act makes the call, and I look down at ace 10 suited on the button. I bump it up to 3.5K, putting the squeeze on, and the small blind raises it to 8K. He has everybody at the table covered. The other 2 players make the fold, so it's up to me. I don't know what the correct play is here. There's about 14K in the middle already. I only have to call 4.5K more, but if I do call and whiff the flop, I would just have to fold and I would lose half my stack. I do decide on a call, and the flop couldn't have been better. 10-10-3. The small blind then shoves, doesn't even think about it. So of course, I snap call. We both flip him over, and I am fist bumping in my head when I see pocket 9s. Last vlog, I hit a 2-outer to win the high hand promotion, so I think the poker guys are trying to even it out because on the turn is a 9. The river brings a brick, so we are out of the first tournament that we have ever played live. We were pretty card dead for most of the tournament, and I don't mind how I play any of the hands, but let me know in the comment section below, is ace 10 suited there a call or not? After we bust the tournament, then we go and play some cash games. We played the cash games about 3 different times during the WSOP. There's a lot of hands to cover, but I decided I'm just gonna pick 1 or 2 from each different cash game. I was thinking about making 4 different vlogs for the WSOP, 3 of them being cash games and then 1 of them being my tournament action. I decided to just put them all in one big vlog, because if I did 4 different vlogs, it would take me about a month to get all that content out there, and I just wanted to keep the content up to date and fresh. If you guys are enjoying my WSOP action so far, make sure you guys like the video, because this is going to take years to edit. I'm going to talk about the hands in the sessions, and then at the very end, I'm going to give total profits and losses at the end. The first hand is a juicy one. I look down at 9-8 suited on the button. I have about $225 to start the hand. The under the gun raises it to 10. There is 4 callers, and I decide on just a call. The blinds decided on a call as well. So we go 7 ways to a flop of queen, jack, 7, 2 clubs. The blinds check, and the initial aggressor bets 25, and all 4 players call. There's almost $200 in the pot, and I have a very interesting decision to make. I think there's only 2 options here. I either have to go all in or fold. What hands can the callers have here? I think some of them could have some queen X, maybe some king 10 or 10-9, and one of them probably has the nut flush draw. If they had queen jack or some kind of set, they would be raising 100%. So if I call, I think the only card that actually helps me is a 10. Even if I do call and a 10 does hit, there is a slim chance one might have ace king with like the ace of clubs that just want to float. If I hit my flush draw, it'll probably be second best, and I'll probably just get stacked. The best hand the initial raiser could have is pocket queens or pocket jacks, but one of the callers might have a queen and one of the other callers might have a jack, so now there's only one combination of pocket queens and one combination of pocket jacks. I may be overanalyzing this a bunch just at 1-3, but with all that being said, I decided to put it all in. I shove for $200 effective, and everyone folds. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. One of the last hands of that night, I looked down at ace-8 suited in middle position. There is a straddle to 6, so I decided to bump it up to 18, and the button calls. So we go heads up to a flop of jack-7-4, 2 spades. I decided to put in a c-bet here to 20, and he makes the call. The turn is a king, and I decided to put in another barrel here to 55. This card should hit my perceived range a bunch, and not hit the caller's range that much. I had a gut feeling he had some kind of pocket pair, so I was just trying to make those fold out as well. He could have some jack-10 or jack-9 types of hands, but I'll probably be firing a lot of good rivers and get those hands to fold. He also might continue with some flush draws so I can barrel the river and get those to fold as well. He does decide on a call, and the river is a deuce. I stick to the plan and I put out a bet of 150. I can have all the sets here. I could have kings, jacks, 8s. I could also have king jack and pocket aces. I also don't block any of his floats. I don't have any queen or 10 for the queen 10s. I also don't have any of the flush draw or the ace. I also don't block a jack that I want him to have, or some queen 10s, or the nut flush draw. He goes into the tank, so I avoid the snap call. He thinks about it for about 3 minutes, and he finally makes the call. And with my surprise, he turns over pocket 5s. So I just got absolutely owned for a full buy-in. The next hand is another session, and we sit down at a brand new, just opened table. The first orbit, I look down at pocket 7s in middle position. There's 2 limpers, and I decide just to limp behind. The small blind calls, and the big blind checks. So we go 5 ways to a flop. The flop is 6-7-8, 2 spades. We flop ourselves middle set, and the initial limper puts out a bet of 20. The second limper folds, and I bump it up to 80. I want to size it up pretty large here to get it in a bunch of turns. There's a lot of draws out there, so I think he continues with a lot of his hands. Everyone folds, and he makes the call. The turn is an ace, so if he happens to have the nut flush draw, he now has a pair. He checks it to me again, and as planned, I make the shove. I overbet here for $217. I get snap called, so that's never good. And he turns over 9-10 for the flop straight. The river is a 10, so we don't approve, and we go busto. There's no other really big, interesting hands that day, so we're moving on to the next session. The session was actually going my way for once. We chipped up to about $450. I open up the pocket 3s in middle position to 12. I think this might be a little bit loose, but at 1-3, I think it's fine. I get a caller in the low jack, and the big blind also calls. We go 3 ways to a flop of 3-8-9. Big blind checks it to me, and I put out a bet of 25. This should hit their calling range a bunch. The big blind started the hand with about 1,000, so he had me covered. The turn is the 7 of clubs, so even though the flush gets there, I can still get value from a lot of hands. He can have some 2 pairs, pairs plus flush draw, pairs, flush, straight draws. So I decided on a bet of 60. The big blind then goes into the tank, and he puts in a super polarized bet, and he shoves all in. Pot was about 150, so he shoves for about 350 effective. So the raise is a little over 2x pot. I go into the tank and think about what hands I actually want him to have. If he has a set of 8s or 9s, I think he should be raising that on the flop. He can have all the nutted hands here. He can have some 10 jack or the nut flush draw. There's a lot of hands that I beat that he could float with here. He could maybe have some 8-7 or ace 10 with the ace of clubs. He could have possibly floated pocket 7s as well, but even then that still beats me. Now what could my range be here? I could have all the sets. I can have some ace X of clubs. I can also have all the overpairs. I shouldn't have that many nutted hands here, because I think I would be checking some ace 10 through ace king of clubs on the flop. I haven't played with this villain before because he just came into town for the WSOP. After a while, I just throw my cards into the muck. Let me know what you guys would have done in this hand in the comment section below. I don't know if you have to call there sometimes, or else you would be exploited too much. So let me know what you guys think. That was the only really interesting hand of that session. So now we move on to the next one. There is a raise to 8 in under the gun. There is 3 callers, and I look down at 7-8 suited. We make the call, and so does the big blind. So we go 5 ways to a flop. The flop is 3, 4, 5, and it checks around. And the turn brings a decent card for me. It's a 6. We now have a 6 card straight, and under the gun decides on a bet of 15. Then a player in middle position goes all in for $83. It folds to me, and the big blind has about 150 behind, and the under the gun player has about 300. I decided to just shove it all in here to look like I'm trying to isolate the razor. I don't read in a lot of live tells, but the big blind already counted out his chips, and he just looked eager to put his money in the pot. So I assumed he was on some kind of draw, so I just wanted to get the money in good now instead of letting him fold on the river. I don't think the under the gun really had that much on the board anyways, so I think he'll be folding a bunch. So we shove, and the big blind does make the call, and the under the gun makes the fold. The river is a 3, so we're just praying none of them had a set on the turn. We show our hand, and we're good. Both the middle position and big blind, they both show a 7. We coolered both players on a pot that we actually won. The cash games are now put aside, and now it's time for the main event. This is the biggest tournament of my life, and I am so excited. In this event, I ran the best I think I've ever ran, but also I ran the worst. This will make sense after a few hands. You start with 30k chips. The blinds start at 5,100. The blinds go up every 40 minutes, and later on, it increases to an hour in 20. I got an okay table draw. I had about 50% regs and 50% recreational players. In the first orbit, I looked down at Queen 10 of spades on the button. There's 2 limps, so I decided to bump it up to 500. They both call. The flop is King 8, 7 rainbow. They both check it to me, and I bet 600, and I get 1 call. The turn hits Gin. It's a jack of spades. 10-9 does get there, but I do block one of those 10s. He checks it to me again, and I decide to fire a big bet here, and I bet 3k. I think I can get 9s to fold, and if he does have a king, I have so many outs on the river. He does make the call. The turn is a brick. It's another 7. He checks it to me again, and I decide to fire another bet here. This is the very first orbit, and this is a recreational player, so I don't think he wants to put up half his chips on the very first hand, unless he has a premium. All 2 pairs, sets, and 10-9 would be raising the turn. So I bet big here, and I bet 8k. And he folds pretty quickly. That's the biggest hand I won in the tournament. It all goes downhill from here. The next hand, I pick up pocket 7s in the big blind. Middle position bumps up to 300. There's 2 callers, and I call as well. The flop is a good one. It is ace 7-9. The initial raiser bets 600, and the next player raises it to 2,000. I decided on just a flat here. This might set off some alarm bells. If I put in the re-raise, I don't know if I can get called by anything that's worse than my hand. There's a lot of draws out there that I want to keep in, and the initial aggressor does make the call. So we go 3 ways to a turn of another ace. So we fill up, and this ace should hit the initial aggressor range super hard. He does decide on a check. The next player decides to bet 3,000. I just flat here again. I want to keep all draws, straight draws, flush draws in, because if they do hit, then I'll get paid. With my surprise, the initial raiser also makes the call. This pot is massive, and it's only 30 minutes into the tournament. The river brings a brick. It was a 5. The initial raiser checks, and the next player decides to bet 10,000. I thought this player was on a big combo draw, but I don't think when all draws miss, that he's going to be bluffing the river into 2 other players. Only hands I lose to is ace 7, ace 9, pocket 9s, and quad aces. I think my hand is too strong to call. He could still be valuing some ace X types of hands, and I don't want to put in a raise here because I'm only going to call by better. So I do decide on a call. The other player makes the fold, and the villain shows pocket 9s. The flop was set over set. We both fill up on the turn, but he had the better boat. This is the beginning of the end. The blinds are now 100, 200 with a 25 ante. We have about 20k in front of us, and we look down at pocket jacks. A player in middle position, right to my right, bumps it up to 500. I put in the raise to 1.5k, and he makes the call. The flop is 10, 9, 7 rainbow. He checks it to me. We have an overpair and a gutter, so obviously we're betting this. So we bet 1.2k. He does make the call. The turn is a 5. This card couldn't change much, So I decided to bet again, and I bet 4K. I think I can get a call from some ace 10 and also some pair plus straight draws. He does make the call, and the river is another 5. The board pairs, so now I do beat 10-9 if you happen to have that. He checks it to me again for the 3rd time, and I don't know what hands I really can get value from. I think an ace 10 might fold on the river here, and all draws miss. So I decided to check, and we get the bad news. He has pocket kings. So we lose yet again another big pot. The next hand, we have about 12K in the big blind. The blinds are 150, 300 with a 25 ante. There's a short stack with only about 4K who open shoves on the button. I'm in the big blind with ace jack of hearts. That is only about a 13 big blind shove, and he should be shoving pretty wide on the button. I'm not a huge tournament player, but I'm pretty sure this is the call, so I do make a call. We see the great news, he only has ace 10, so we have him dominated. But of course, the poker gods have a nice way of saying hello to me, and the flop is king 10-7. Turn is a 5, and of course the river, just to throw some salt in the wound, is another 10. So we double up the button and we lose another pot. We then go card dead for a level and we whittle our way down to 5K. The blinds are 200, 400 with a 50 ante. A player in under the gun opens it up to 800. There is another player in middle position who makes the call, and we look down at the big blind with 4-5 suited. I don't know if this is a fold here, but we do make the call with only 12.5 big blinds. The flop is king 3-4 with 2 spades. The initial aggressor bets 1K, the next player folds, and now it's up to me. I really don't know what to do here playing with these stack steps, but I don't know if this was the correct play, but I just put it in there for 4.5K. He should be c-betting a lot, so I think I can get him to fold a bunch of hands. And if he happens to have the flush draw, we are ahead. But unfortunately, he makes the call with pocket tens, and we don't improve. So my main event journey has come to an end. Now it's time to tally up all the days that happened at the WSOP. The first day, we played a $400 tournament, and we also played a cash game. And that day we lost $873. The next day was Wednesday, and we lost $257. Thursday, we actually turned around and we won negative $240. And don't forget the main event, which we lost 1.7K. So in total, we lost about $3,000. That was not a good week for me at all. I've taken a lot away from this week though as well. I need to study a lot more, and the fire inside of me is burning. I also want to play a lot more online poker as well. I've put it a lot on the back burner to play a lot more live and work on this vlog. I would like to start live streaming on either Twitch or YouTube, so let me know what you guys think about that, if you guys would tune in and say what's up. If you guys made it all the way to the end, make sure you guys subscribe and hit that like button, and click on one of the side videos if you want to see more poker content. This vlog is going to take forever to edit, so please leave a like and let me know what you guys think. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.